that consistently comes up when I'm helping women set goals, manage their calendar, whether they're experienced agents or just getting started, is what do they do with the kids on weekends or evenings? I was talking to an agent just last night, and she said she is in a case where both she and her husband are getting licensed, and they apparently made the agreement that his schedule would come first and that Saturdays would be for him. She'd watch the kids. So she was left with Sunday afternoons and then a couple evening times. And that's not unusual. I hear that quite a bit. Often husbands and wives are getting their licenses at the same time, or the woman decides to get a license and maybe her spouse isn't so supportive or something like that. That's really not unusual, that she's not getting a lot of help at home or to enable her to make the income that she wants to make. And so one of the things that I really encourage women to do is to go ahead and hire yourself some help. I actually got that idea. It wasn't an original idea. I got the idea from reading Mary Kay Ash's book. Mary Kay, of course, the founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics. I got the idea from her. And at the time, I was a single mom. She had been a single mom. And she said that she basically hired herself a wife. And that's kind of how I viewed it for a long time. And I do think that I got off to a very strong start in my insurance career, not because I'm particularly smarter than anyone else or particularly better at sales than anyone else, but I structured my life that it encouraged me to succeed. One thing that Mary Kay said was that she was in direct sales with a different company before she started Mary Kay. One thing she said was she knew that she had hired somebody to be watching the kids, taking care of things at home. And because she knew that she had to pay them, it was highly motivating for her to make sure she always came back with a sale. And that's very much how I felt. I always felt like, oh, I better make more appointments, double book my appointments if necessary, and I better sell something, because not only do I have to pay rent, I got to pay the babysitter. And what's really nice about that is I found that because eventually I did remarry, and I do find that often hired babysitters take better care of the kids and home than just counting on maybe an older sibling or another adult in the house. They want you to hire them again. You're their paycheck. So those babysitters want you to hire them again. So they want to do a really good job. And so if they feed the kids, typically they make sure that the dinner is cleaned up. If they might even do some vacuuming or something like that, that's going to be a real help. Anything so that when you come home at the end of the day, you're not coming home to a mess. I started out hiring a friend to watch my kids. My kids would be at her house. So that was really nice, so that I didn't come home to a disaster of whatever would have happened while I was gone doing appointments. So it meant I didn't have to have extra cleanup or anything. She took care of them, fed them. I did pay her and everything. And how it worked was, and this was for during the week because that's the only time she was available, I paid her a certain amount if I was home by 6, a certain amount if I was home by 10, and if it was an overnight, because I had gotten back so late from doing appointments, because like I said, I would do a whole day of appointments, it was another amount entirely, and I would pick them up and take them to school the next day. And then things changed as my schedule changed over the years. But one thing to consider, if you were to get a job, whether it's working at JCPenney or as a school teacher or at the local bank or something like that, if you got a job and you wouldn't be considering, well, maybe I just won't get childcare. I mean, it just wouldn't. If it was a regular full-time job, you would arrange for after-school care for your kids, maybe before-school care for your kids, things like that. And unless you start planning for what to actually do with the family, what to actually do for the house, insurance will always be just a side hustle and is even probably relatively irritating to you and your family because it's always up in the air and difficult. But if you actually put a system in place to make sure the house and kids are taken care of, it's going to be so much easier on you, so much easier on the family. And the kids will probably even look forward to having some time with a babysitter or something like that. So I went from hiring a friend a couple days a week to then when I had a full agency. You know, a lot of people think when you make it in insurance, you just get to spend all your time with your kids. Maybe that's true for some people. That's not true for me. For me, it's been a real career, as any career would be. And so when my children were tiny, I had them in daycare. And having them in daycare allowed me to make the money that I needed to make to take care of them. And so I don't think I would have been nearly as successful or happy. That was a big thing. I didn't have to worry about what was happening to them or whatever, because I had paid professionals taking care of them. And yes, those things are tax deductible depending on your state. Oregon, when I lived there, they gave me a little bit of hard time about it once. But as long as you have your records and, somebody has a tax ID or a social security number you're willing to give them, yes, it is tax deductible. as are most things with your business that I hope you're taking advantage of. So do yourself a favor, get some help, not just babysitters. Don't be afraid to hire people to come over and clean your house, even if it's just once a month. Because the more you're gone, if it's anything like my house, and believe me, I have a much more supportive husband than what most people have. I really do. What can I say? We're from the West Coast. Maybe men are just a little more progressive over there. I don't know or what it is. But I do have a more helpful and supportive husband than what most people have. And even I struggle to feel like the house is clean enough. The kids are eating healthier enough if I'm not there or something like that. So really, don't be afraid. You should be making enough money in your insurance sales to be hiring whatever you feel the family might be missing by your presence not being there. So whether that's, house cleaning, you can even do some laundry outsourcing. I have done that from time to time. Your typical local dry cleaner will often do laundry by the pound. For years, I took advantage of that. I just would take in a bag, drop it off there, and pick up my bag that I gave them earlier in the week. And so I did that twice a week, exchanging out the clothes. So I do not feel that I have succeeded on my own. I did get help when I felt overwhelmed. I invested in it because I saw my insurance career as a business, and I structured it intentionally to help myself succeed. And I would encourage you to do that same thing.